The rain poured relentlessly, drenching the narrow alleys of the village like a judgment from the skies. Mud mixed with dust, and the gray clouds pressed low over rooftops made of tin and straw. But louder than the thunder was the sound of pain, raw, desperate, and ignored. Inside a dimly lit hut at the edge of the village, Meher clutched her newborn twin daughters to her chest, trying to protect them with her trembling body. Her clothes were torn, her lip split, and blood dripped slowly from her temple. Her mother-in-law raised the wooden stick again, eyes burning with hate. "You witch! You gave us 2 girls. Useless mouths to feed," she screamed, bringing the stick down hard across Meher's back. The sister-in-law joined in, pulling Meher's hair and spitting on her. "Our brother is dead and you still live here like a queen. You should have thrown those cursed babies into the river." Meher didn't cry. She couldn't. She just held her daughters tighter, whispering their names. Noor and Neha, like a prayer, her body absorbing every blow so they wouldn't feel the world's cruelty on their first day. Outside, neighbors paused for a moment, listening. But they kept walking. No one interfered. Not in this village. Not for a widow. Until the sound of a vehicle echoed through the storm. A black jeep splashed through the mud and halted outside the house. A tall man stepped out, rain soaking his shirt within seconds. He walked straight toward the screams, his jaw clenched, eyes blazing with fury. He stepped into the doorway, and the chaos froze. Meher looked up, bloodied and shaking. And then, in a voice that cut through the storm like a sword, the man said, "You're coming with me." For a moment, the entire house stood still, as if time itself had forgotten how to move. The stick hung in mid-air, suspended in the trembling hand of Meher's mother-in-law. Meher stared at the doorway in disbelief, her vision blurred with blood and tears, unsure if the man standing there was real or another cruel mirage sent by fate. But he was real. Azan Malik. He stepped further inside, the wet floor creaking under his boots. The storm raged behind him, but it was nothing compared to the fury in his eyes. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his voice low but deadly. "This is none of your business," the sister-in-law snapped. "She belongs here. She's our burden." Azan didn't flinch. His gaze moved to Meher, still huddled on the ground with the babies crying in her arms. He walked over slowly, took off his long coat, and wrapped it around her shaking shoulders. It smelled of rain and soap and something else, safety. "Can you stand?" he asked gently. Meher opened her mouth, but no words came. She had forgotten what kindness sounded like. Azan turned to the others. "From this moment on, she and the girls are no longer your concern. You've done enough damage. You can't take her," the mother-in-law shrieked. "She's our daughter-in-law." "No," he said, eyes narrowing, "she's a mother. And a human being. And right now, she's leaving." Without waiting for permission, he bent down, cradled both twins in his strong arms, and reached out for Meher's hand. She hesitated, then placed her fingers in his. Together, they walked out into the rain. Behind them, angry voices cursed and screamed. But Meher didn't look back. For the first time in a long time, she was walking toward something. The city felt like another world, louder, faster, yet strangely quiet inside Azan Malik's apartment. Perched on the 4th floor, the modest but warm space overlooked a row of trees, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze, a sound Meher hadn't heard in years without fear attached to it. The first night, Meher barely spoke. She sat on the edge of the guest room bed, arms wrapped around the twins, eyes darting to the door like she still expected someone to barge in and drag her back. Her clothes were clean now, and her wounds had been dressed by a kind female doctor Azan brought over. But inside, she was still bleeding. Azan didn't push. He simply left a tray of warm food by her door and sat on the living room couch, alert but silent. When one of the twins began to cry in the middle of the night, he was the first to knock softly and ask, "Do you need anything?" She whispered no. But something in her heart softened. Days passed like that. Quietly. He bought tiny clothes and toys for Noor and Neha, learning how to rock them to sleep. One evening, Meher found him sitting cross-legged on the floor with one baby in his lap and the other trying to chew his shirt button. He was laughing, completely unbothered by the mess. She stood there watching, a forgotten warmth flickering in her chest. Later that night, as he brought her a cup of chai, she finally asked the question that had haunted her since the moment he appeared. "Why are you doing all this for me?" Azan looked at her, really looked at her. "Because I remember you, Meher," he said. "Before life broke your spirit. You deserve a chance to be whole again." And for the first time, her eyes filled with tears, not from pain, but from something dangerously close to hope. By the time spring painted the city with blossoms and golden sunlight, Meher had begun to change. It started with small things, folding laundry that wasn't hers, brewing chai in the mornings before Azan woke up, tidying the living room where toys now lay scattered across the floor. Each quiet gesture stitched her back into life, thread by delicate thread. She laughed again. Not loudly, not often, but when Noor tried to copy Azan's frown, or when Neha pulled his nose during story time, Meher would smile so wide her cheeks ached. Azan noticed every one of those moments like treasures. He never said anything, but his heart held on to them. One afternoon, she baked a batch of almond biscuits, remembering how her mother used to make them. She left a few on the table for Azan with a note that read, "Thank you, for everything." It was the first time she'd written anything in months. He read the note twice. Their bond wasn't rushed. It grew in the silences, in the way she'd pour his tea exactly how he liked it, and in the way he'd rock the babies at night so she could sleep a little longer. One rainy evening, Azan returned home tired, soaked to the skin. Meher waited with a towel, gently drying his hair as he sat on the couch, stunned into stillness by the softness of her hands. When he looked up at her, her eyes didn't look away this time. "I never thought I'd find peace again," she whispered. "You didn't find it," he said softly. "You created it." In that quiet moment, there were no declarations, no promises. Just two souls recognizing each other, not from the past, but from the journey they were silently building together. The rose garden was in full bloom, its air rich with the scent of blossoms and the sounds of gentle laughter. Azan had chosen this place not just for its beauty, but for its peace, the same kind of peace Meher had brought into his life without even realizing it. It was a sunny Sunday morning, and Meher wore a soft pink dupatta that danced with the breeze. The twins, now chubby and smiling, crawled on a checkered mat laid out under the shade of a blooming tree. Azan unpacked the picnic basket, her favorite lemon cake, sweet mango juice for the girls, and homemade sandwiches he tried, and failed, to cut into neat triangles. Meher chuckled, watching him struggle with the juice box. "You're worse than the twins." "I'm better at buildings than baby bottles," he said sheepishly. She laughed, the sound like a melody he never wanted to forget. When the girls dozed off on the mat, their little fingers still clutching crumbs, Azan turned serious. He reached into the basket and pulled out a small wooden box. Her breath caught. Opening it slowly, he revealed a simple silver ring, engraved with just two words, "Safe, always." "Meher," he said, his voice steady, "you don't owe me anything. You don't need rescuing. But I want to walk beside you. Raise these girls with you. Build a life with you. Not out of sympathy, but out of love." Tears filled her eyes. "But I'm not the same woman I once was." He took her hand, kissed her knuckles. "Neither am I. Let's be new people, together." She nodded, smiling through tears. "Yes." In the heart of that blooming garden, with sunlight on their faces and the future in their hands, they began again, not as a rescue story, but as a love story born from courage, healing, and hope.